Hi there, I'm Hilary DeCesar, and you're about to listen to episode number 25 of the Silver Lined Relaunch. Rodney Flowers is an absolute inspiration. At age 15, life as he knew it was halted in an instant on the football field. He truly is more than an inspiration. He is living proof that, as he puts it, when you shift your focus to your capabilities instead of your limitations, and you ask, who are you going to be with your limitation? You can overcome and accomplish just about anything. See, Rodney is living proof that our darkest fears of what can happen can lead to silver linings that are incomprehensible. And in this episode, he not only shares his story, but his powerful game-changing outlook and insight on how his purpose, clarity, and focus shifted in a moment, and how yours can as well when you can be authentic with yourself. And the best part, he challenged the odds. He challenged those odds that he was given and said no to what others said was his fate. Did he succeed? Well, I guess you'll just have to listen to this beyond inspiring episode to find out. So enjoy. And don't forget, listen to the end, because that's where Rodney redefines how you should listen to people. And it will have you looking at and living your life in a whole new way. And now, our conversations begin, and so does the inspiration. You're listening to the Silver Lined Relaunch, and I'm your host, Hilary DeCesar, award-winning entrepreneur and transitional coach. Each week, I'll invite you to tune into inspirational stories, revealing how you too can turn ordinary experiences into the extraordinary. Feeling stuck? I'll share step-by-step strategies to fuel your ability to experience a life where silver linings are both abundant and possible. All right, so excited. Today I have Rodney Flowers, and I have the privilege of meeting Rodney a while, not too far actually, not long ago, but I was on his podcast and had such an awesome connection that I thought, oh my gosh, his story is absolutely perfect for the Silver Lined Relaunch. So, Rodney, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Hillary. I am excited to be here with you, being able to connect with you again. I had such a good time in our first connection. It's such a wonderful person, so full of energy, and I'm just delighted that you've invited me to be on your show. And so I'm just very
Oh, you're
grateful
so
to
you're
be
s- you're so sweet. Okay. So, for those that don't know you, I would love for you to share a little bit about your journey, because it's one that, I mean, it's made for movies. It truly
Oh,
is. And
wow.
you're made for movies. So, who knows? Maybe there's somebody listening right now that's going to be like,
Maybe.
"What? Okay." So, yeah, share a little bit about, what's taken you through this journey and what started it.
Well, awesome. Yeah, thank you for asking. So it all started with a love for football. I was a teenager, wanted to go to the NFL, dedicated my life to football and learning the game, playing the game, being an expert and master at the game. And I found myself playing in high school with high expectations. And during the start of the third quarter of my sophomore year, this was the very first game of the year, I found myself running down the field after kicking the ball off to make a tackle, and I wanted to make a play. I was known for being a playmaker, and so I went. I seen the kick returner heading towards my direction, and boom, I made a hit, and it was a spectacular hit. The fans went crazy. Everybody was like, "Wow, oh my god!" You know, and we both went down, but I couldn't get back up. Trainers, coaches, and fans all started running out on the field, yelling, "Get up, Rodney! Get up! Get up!" I couldn't get up. So they rushed me to the hospital and they started doing all kinds of tests to measure the severity of my accident. And I remember so vividly uh, lying in the emergency room and looking up at my dad. My dad was in there with me. He's looking down on me. I'm lying on this bed and they're, running these tests. And he asked me, he said, "Can you feel that?" I said, "No, I don't feel what?" And he said, "They
Mm.
cut in the bottom of your feet. Your feet are bleeding." And oh my God, that's when it really set in that, you know, this was a life changing experience. And I began to cry and I began to just feel helpless and hopeless because I knew this wasn't some injury that you just recover from in 6 weeks or
Yeah, this
you
is
know
not a bounce back. This is not
nah,
one of those
this is
things.
not one of those. And so it was a life threatening injury. It was a career ending injury. And so they rushed me to Duke University Trauma Center because this was a traumatic injury. And the next morning, gosh, and I remember this so vividly, just as the sun was beginning to shine through the window of the intensive care unit, a team of neurologists visited my bedside to pass along my diagnosis. My diagnosis was quadriplegic. I was completely paralyzed. I had no movement or sensation in any of my extremities. And the doctor said I had a 92% chance of remaining that way for the rest of my life. And that's where it really all began, where I had to figure out how to turn my life around, how to restart, redesign, reset, how to bounce back from that and live a happy, productive
So Rodney,
life.
before we get to where you are today, and part of who you are is you radiate. You radiate from within this energy, this people are you're like a magnet. You're so filled with love and inspiration. But I want to go back to, were you 15 or were you 16?
I was 15.
Okay, 15-year-old Rodney. You had always wanted to, your dreams, your goals, football, 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 football family, everything is like football. And your identity was around
Mhm.
being that football player.
Yeah,
And what went through your head as they told you, first quadriplegic, and then second 92% chance that you're never going to get any feeling? I mean, what was going through your head?
it was all sorrow, just absolute sorrow and pity and why me? And this is unbelievable.
Because this is what you
Just
were going to be.
yeah. I mean, it was devastating, Hillary. It
And
was.
so you had this, literally, I feel like I'm watching you as this 15-year-old being told this, and it just shattered you. It literally like was crumbling your entire body, which this injury had been. It had literally brought you to your knees. It had
It
crumbled
stripped away
you.
my identity. I felt that I didn't have a reason to live. There was no point. I didn't.
Mm.
I felt like life in this state, like dealing with this injury with no possibility of recovery, seemingly. That what's the point of living? Why live your life like that? So I wanted it. I wanted it all to end. I either wanted it, 100% recovery, or end it, over, done.
That's an interesting one.
That's
Yeah.
it.
100%. I either want to be like back to where I was, I want to be
Yep.
playing ball, or hey, take me now. Well,
Yep.
what caused you to all of a sudden say that that's not going to be the case? I'm not going to be 100% back, but I
Mhm.
also don't want to be off this planet. What did you like? How did it come to even being that way, where you're like, I'm going to move on. You know, I'm going to put myself together again.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't all of a sudden, first of all,
Mm.
because I spent about 2 years, a year or two, just in absolute pity and self entitlement and, you know, uh, sorrow, grief, all of that.
Mm. Well, I hadn't really thought about grief. We usually equate to the death of somebody, but you were equating it to the death of you. That this person that you were before, this identity of you, was now gone. And how did you feel about, I know that you're in this deep sorrow, you're in this deep pain. What actually is there a moment that kind of was the wake up call, that was that I got to do something about this?
Well, it was really living in that misery every single day got old very quickly.
Mm.
Um, and so I started to ask myself a series of questions. And those questions were, hey, why are you in pain? You can't feel anything. So what you're hurting, why are you really hurting? Honestly. Because I wasn't hurting physically. I was hurting mentally and
Mm.
emotionally and spiritually. And so I began to ask myself, why? And it was because of the loss that I felt. It was because of the impact that I felt that I wasn't going to be able to have. It was for the significance that was stripped away. And I wanted to feel better at a very minimum. I just wanted to feel better every day. And so I asked myself, well, what could you do now to get that back? Because that would help you feel better. And so I started thinking about the fact that I'm in this situation. And one of the things that would be impactful, one of the things that would cause significance, one of the things that would, add some worth to my life would be to overcome it, even though doctors are saying you can't do it. And I said, well, if I was to pull that off, wow, that would be more significant than playing football. And I just pondered on that a little bit. And over and over, just thinking about that, I began to realize that I had one of the biggest opportunities in my life that I've ever experienced. This was bigger than football. This was bigger than anything. And I thought to myself, isn't this a trick? Oh, wow. So that's my charge. That's what I'm, I felt like that was my contribution. That was my significance to deal with this and show the world that, hey, regardless of how traumatic, how devastating, most people would never go through something like this. And so this was going to change the game for a lot of people. And I had the privilege and the responsibility to pull this off. And I
But
said, okay.
taking on this responsibility, you're 15, 16 years old, and your life has completely been turned upside down.
Yep.
It will never be the same. And now you're
So,
saying that you all of a sudden, and I know it wasn't all of a sudden, it came over time. It came out of,
yep.
of a lot of self pity, a lot of like, why is this happening to me? Where all of a sudden you're saying, hey, I've got something. There's a bigger calling for me here on this earth.
Hmm.
My purpose, my mission of why. All of a sudden, that really did come to you. And did you, once you started thinking about, okay, if I overcome this, what a major role I'll have in people's lives with inspiration? I mean, I'm still fascinated at that idea around really this major reset in your life, this major, I'm not going to be that person, I'm going to be this new person.
Well, I believe this, Hillary. I believe that happiness in life, satisfaction in life, is built around purpose. And I was happy with football. That was my purpose, I thought. And so when that's gone, right, your happiness is gone. It wasn't so much the
Mm,
fact that I was injured.
mm,
I realized that was an indirect effect. The direct effect was purpose. Okay. purpose, gone. If you lose your purpose, you're kind of like, why am I here? You don't have any self-worth, you don't have anything. And so it wasn't difficult to realize that here's a new purpose. Okay. It wasn't difficult because I didn't have anything. I didn't have identity. All of that was gone. I was clean. Didn't have anything there. Nothing to look to. There was nothing. The doctors, my mom, dad, no one. And so when this dropped in my spirit and dropped in my mind, I was like, I'll take that on. What do I have to lose? Nothing. But I have everything to gain. Everything. And so that became the driving force for me. That became the
So
reason I got up every
the
morning.
switch was pushed and you're all in at that point. You're
Yeah,
like, okay. And so
yeah.
what was the first thing that came through your mind that you wanted to do?
Well, so it wasn't walk. I mean, obviously, I wanted to walk again. I started off with just being successful in the situation, right? Because, no one thought I would go back to school, get a job, be successful. Anyway, I was going to be a vegetable in a rest home with people taking care of me 24/7. I wouldn't, not all independence stripped away. So I just wanted to be on my own. I just wanted to be an independent individual, making my own money, paying my own bills with my own stuff. That's it, right? And walking was second. And then I just developed a bigger vision. I said, if you're gonna go all the way. And I just began to believe in everything, running, playing football again, writing a book, being a speaker, helping people change their lives. And the same way I devoted my life to football, I devoted my life to that purpose. And it's been a roller coaster ride. It hasn't been easy. It took 18 years just to get out of the wheelchair. I was able to go back to college. Well, not go back to college, go back to high school, graduate, go to college, get an MBA, do all of those wonderful things. Um, and I think most importantly, what I've done is just created an example for people. And that's my mission in life, to be an example of what's
Mhm.
possible. Period. That's it.
I think that
Because
people
I've
right now are listening and saying, "Oh my gosh, he's done more with what you said 18 years, but it's so fascinating to hear when you say being successful in the situation. That's where you started. And then you started to have these visions of all the different things and it was just I mean, you are the king of manifestation, right? You're like, "Hey, I can do this, I can do that, I can do that." And yes, there are still limitations, right? There's still things that physically you may not be able to do,
sure.
but yet
Yeah.
even in the limitations, what I
Yeah.
have seen from you is that you rise and somehow that limitation, you figure out a way to even get around that
Well,
limitation.
here's the thing. We all have limitations. You
Right.
can't go through life without limitations. There's limitation
Mhm.
everywhere. But then there's things that you're strong at. There's things that the universe has given you that are your strengths, your gifts. And those are things that the universe has also given you desires, things that will really push you and cause you to it just gives you amazing energy to go and do these activities you just love to do. You focus on those things, you're able to overcome the limitations. See, a lot of times, if I was focused just on my limitations, focused on everything that I could not do, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish what I've accomplished. And I would always tell myself, don't focus on what you can't do, focus on what you can do in your situation. Because see, there's always opposition. That's the thing that all of us have in common is opposition, resistance. Everyone has that in their life. The difference is how you perceive it and how you manage it. Who are you going to be in it? That's where we get back to that identity. Who are you going to be with your limitations? Right? Because you can play the victim role, you can play I'm limited, that's who I am. You can take your limitations on as an identity, or you can take your strengths and your capabilities on as an identity. My strength and my capability has put me in a place of fame, put me in a place of authorship, put me in a place of an expert, of a master. I don't focus on people seek me out and society calls me disabled. Society calls me handicapped. but people are seeking me out to help them. That's because I'm focused on what I'm capable of doing. I'm not focused on what I'm not capable of doing. So if we just shift the focus from limitations to capability, that's how winning is done.
I love shift the focus. I mean, it is. And as you said, we all have limitations. Some have more than others. And if you can take the strengths and start looking at that and think of them as the capabilities of where you can go with them. I mean, inspiration to the 100th degree, right? I mean, that's what you are all about. That's what you're showing every day as are invited during the good days where we can have you on stages and your, magnetic personality being up there and watching you walk across the stage. It really is. It's focusing and shifting your focus to the right things. One thing that I wanted to make sure that we talk about is, tell me your thoughts around resilience, because when you talk about it, is there something that you go deep in to get that?
Well, resilience is always the definition is to bounce back. That's what resilience is all about. And how do you bounce back? Well, there's a couple of things that can help you bounce back. First of all, it's recovery. You have to take care of yourself. That's a fundamental tactic, fundamental activity. If you want to bounce back, you have to take care of yourself. And I'm gonna say this. You know, stress, overwhelm, none of those things ever killed anyone. It's the inability to bounce back from the stress and the overwhelm. That's or recover, I should say. That's what kills you. The inability to recover from the stress. Stress is a good thing. Overwhelm could stretch you beyond your means, but you can't stay in that space forever. You have to you experience it, then you get out of it, recover, and then you go. And that's how you maintain resilience. The other thing is perception. So one thing that'll help you bounce back is the perception of where you are. And so if you've been hit, okay, uh, you have to be able to think, get up, get back on the feet. Okay. You can't just think, oh my God, I got hit. Sort of like COVID. Everyone's been hit with COVID.
Mm.
And so I believe that if this was a football game, the opposition they executed a play I wasn't prepared for. The team, the world as a whole was not prepared for this play. It caught us all off guard. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to go back to the playbook. We need to go back to what we have on the chalkboard and say, how do we deal with this? It's not over. It's
Rodney,
just that we need
I
to
see you looking
adjust.
at the playbook, and I see you saying, "We're calling an audible right now. I got this one."
Exactly. Right. And so we go and we adjust. We have to have agility, flexibility. Those are critical elements in resilience. And those are just two things, like those two things alone. Right? Take the time to recover. You got hit. Go sit down for it. Reassess, you know, authenticity. Yeah. A lot of people think authenticity is being their real selves. But I want to introduce authenticity as being real with yourself. That's how you
Being real
recover.
with yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
Because your real self, if I would have stayed my real self, I wouldn't be where I was. I was a mess. I had a bad attitude. I hated the world and everyone in it. And it wasn't until I got real with myself and said, you know what, your attitude stinks. You know what, you need to check that. You need to think about how you're perceiving this. Woe is me. No, look, you still have the responsibility. Whatever happened on the field, it happened. But what are you going to do now? What are you going to do right now to help make your life better? Because that's something you can't change. So I had to be real with me. And that was being authentic. And then once I realized where I needed improvement, I was willing to take action. See, that's resilience at its deepest level. You can talk
So
about resilience.
the get real. I mean, we talk about in the relaunch company, we talk about this, the Get Real project, and getting back to the real you, not the one that your parents built up or your friends built up or the work, or It's you. It's stripping back all of those layers to come up with the real you. It's, it's when you're, at night and you wash your face and you see that there's, makeup or there's stuff from the day and you're like, "Oh, just strip it away and find out who the real you is."
Yeah.
That's what
And, and
that's what
and
we've
then
been able to do.
and being able to look at those blemishes, being able to look at the scars, being able to look at those things and realize, okay, what do I need to do with my skin? How can I improve improve my situation?
Mm.
That's really being real with yourself. And the last thing I want to give is just mindfulness. A lot of times our minds are full of all the things that are going on in our lives, the victimhood, the fact that you can't this, the fact that you can't that. You're right. That's your mind is full, but you're not mindful. Mindful is realizing that you got a lot of junk going on in your head, and then just taking the time to raise your awareness and meditate and clear your mind of that and focus on self-serving thoughts. Okay. And I just want to pause with that. Self-serving thoughts. Because all of the television and all of the things that's filling your head up, they're not serving you. It's actually perpetuating the situation. So it's
Mm.
not until we can raise our awareness of the junk that we're thinking, get rid of that, and spend time filling our minds up with self-serving thoughts, thoughts that are going to serve us, thoughts that are going to build us up, thoughts that are going to help us change our identity, help us change our perception, give us a reason to live, give us something to get up in the morning for, give us something to work towards, to stretch towards. We have to create a new vision sometimes. And you can't create a new vision if you're always looking at the things that are perpetuating the situation. A lot of times, in terms of resilience, what we need is a different vision to work towards in order to bounce back. But we're still stuck on that vision. We have to be able to let go of the current vision and then create a new one. That's what adjusting the game plan is all about. The audible is all about. Hey, we went out on the field, everyone had a vision, we're gonna run this play. But now we see the opposition. We gotta let go of that vision because that's not what we're doing. We have to create a new one, right? And you have to get focused on the new vision. What are the things necessary to execute the new vision? We're not focused on that vision anymore. That's done. Let it go.
How many times do you think that you have changed your core identity since the accident?
Oh, it continues to change. It evolves. It
Mm.
evolves. Every day I try to evolve in who I am and my contribution and the way I show up every day. And it takes time. I mean, we all are going through a process. Life is a process.
Mm.
And it's a process of getting getting hit and getting back up. If you look at the core of everybody, the rich, the poor, it's all a process of getting hit and getting back up. Getting hit, getting back up, facing resistance, facing opposition, figuring out how I'm gonna get around it. That's the process of life. You put a seed in the ground, and it has to figure out how to get out the ground. It has to figure out how to get its sun and everything it needs in order to grow, right? Gotta, fight the bugs and all of that. That's what we do. This is what we do every day. And we this is life. We shouldn't be upset about that. We should celebrate it. When you get hit, it's an opportunity to grow. I don't ever lose. I either learn or I win. That's it. And sometimes losing, if you will, is better than winning because you get to learn. Sometimes you win, you don't get to learn. That's why I love very, very competitive games because it's going to force me to learn. If I'm always playing against a team or playing against something or playing in life at a level where I know I can win, then yeah, I'll feel good about winning all day, but I'm not growing. And it's not until you're in life and you're faced with something that's going to push you and challenge you. And you may fall on your face quite a few times before you can win. But that's the beauty of it. Because every time you fall on your face, you're learning something. You're learning
I
something new.
it's so true. I think about, people that say, I just need to change this, I need to change that, and all of a sudden their life is going to be great. Well, you can change something very, very quickly, like in a moment. But to have growth, that's a process that takes time. And it falls so nicely into your story. And when I think about the silver line, silver linings we all have, how would you, in sharing what you've been through, and there are people like you said, everybody has something they're going through, right? Everybody. And it's a roller coaster, as you said, and life is that way, right? As soon as you get past that one, major obstacle, there's another one. There's
Yeah,
another, loop de
yeah,
loop on that that you're going to
yeah.
be hit with, and it's going to drop your stomach and all that. But from a silver lining perspective, especially with what you've said about setbacks and overcoming those, what are you now, when you look back on the silver linings around what happened to you, how would you describe that as where you are today in your life?
That's a really good question. I think I would just have to say uh, vision and identity is sort of my silver lining. That's my go-to. Who am I in this? I believe whenever you want to go somewhere in life, it's not so much what you have to do to get there. It's more so who do you have to be
Hmm.
to get there. And I think that's where a lot of people miss the mark because they feel like it's something they need to do. Then they look at the to-do list and it's like, I'm not doing that. So, but it's not so much the doing, it's the being. Are you the type of person that would do that? Are you the type of person that would create the thing you want? And see, and that's connected to your core values and who you are, how you show up in the world. And that's why a lot of people they want things, but they're not emotionally connected to it. And because of that, they can't they find it very difficult to accomplish it. And it could be that they're in the wrong lane. It's not their gift, it's not their contribution. And so it's very important that you find your contribution. You find the thing that you are really good at that sets you on fire. And when you find that, you go 120% into it. And I really believe that that's what this is for me. This is my contribution. This is my significance
Mm.
to be an example of what's possible. That's why I was put here. That's why, in my belief, that's why what happened on the football field happened because I'm supposed to be an example of what's possible, you know, beyond the football field. And so
Mm.
I've taken that on. And another thing I would say is responsibility. And I want people to understand that responsibility also comes with privilege. I have the responsibility and the privilege to do what I do. A lot of people think things happen to them, right? But I want to challenge people to think about the things that happen for you. Sometimes it can seem very victimizing and debilitating, but that's just one pair of shades that you're looking through, one pair of lenses that you're looking through. Try to change the lens in your viewpoint of the thing that you're going through. And maybe you'll see that this happened for you.
Mhm.
And I want to give people a really good example. This is a really good example. I want you to take COVID 19 and look at the things that are coming out of COVID 19. Very simple thing telework. Okay. Not only telework, video conferencing, all of that has just risen to exponential levels. Now, here's what I want you to consider about that. All of that could have taken place prior to COVID. Zoom was available, go-to meetings, all of this stuff was available prior to leadership could have took the initiative to allow telework capability prior to COVID. But many leaders didn't think that it was possible to perform the tasks that the employees had to perform before COVID. But something had to happen that forced them and bended their thinking and expanded them to say, oh, okay, I guess it can. But it took something to happen. And so that happened for them. And so things like that happen in our lives. It
Mhm.
happens for us in order to get us to see, to expand our mindset, to expand our hearts, to see things differently. Because as human beings, we don't always take that initiative. We get caught up in the routine. Hey, this is working. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I don't need to learn anything else because this right here is answering the mail and we're done. But life is all about evolution, going
Hmm.
to the next level, right? Expansion. That's what life is all about. And so we have to understand that some of the things that happen to us, it's not to debilitate. Life never wants to debilitate us. Life always wants to expand, but we have to look for the expansion. That's why you have to be careful what's going on in your mind. Because if you're looking for stoppage, it's debilitating, it's victimizing, you're going to find those things. But if you know life is there to support you, to help you, to serve you, then you can start looking for the little cues and the things that it's nudging you on to do, right?
It's
Things,
changing that lens, like you said. It's
yeah,
too many people, take those dark glasses off, put on a pair that, helps you see better because it's there. It's right. It's there. It's right in front of you. Uh,
absolutely.
it's interesting. When you were saying this, there was this image that I had from years ago. I was in a very, very difficult situation with my work. And I remember looking outside, and in the concrete around a pool, there was this big flower that had bloomed up in the concrete. There was no grass, no, I mean, literally through a crack. And I thought, to me, that is resilience. That is, I mean, everything in its power to be there and the comeback and, being pure and real. And I think about you that way. I think about, like, and yes, your last name is Flowers, which is so perfect, but I really do. I look at how much you, even in this, very short conversation, how much we can take away. The silver lining that you have brought us in terms of, changing our own lens, changing our own way of thinking, changing the way that we're shifting our focus.
Sure.
And that that will then bring where you said, what you're doing and what you want to have and who you need to be from that inside and how that will show up on the outside, right? That mirror reflection. So, wow, so many. I mean, this is one of those that, this is a repeat one. If you're going to listen to this is the, the gold lies within, right? Take that pan out and start, shifting it around because there's so many wise, incredible comments that you made. And I want to say thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story and your journey. And what's so exciting about this is your journey is still in its early stages. I mean, there's so much that you have that you're going to be doing and giving and contributing to life, to others. And I just am so happy that I had a chance to meet you, and now we'll stay connected and friends along these paths because it's
Awesome.
nice when you're given that opportunity. And when we created a silver lined relaunch, it was to highlight exactly your journey. And so I feel I have the chills throughout, up and down my body. So I just thank you. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here today. Such a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And if I could just give one more thing, just
Absolutely. I was
one
actually going
more.
to have you give a couple more things, but you start and then I'll end with my final question.
Well, I just want to help people with, we talked about focus and changing the lens, and I just want to give some people practical advice about that. We have eyeballs. We all have eyeballs. We have eyes and we see with our eyes. But I want to challenge people to not see with your eyes, to see with your heart. See through your eyes, but see with your heart. Just take that on and meditate on that. Because sometimes when we see with our eyes, we don't get the true picture of a thing. Or we see based on our own beliefs and programming. See, when you see with your heart, can look beyond those limiting beliefs. You can look beyond the conscious mind and truly get to see things as they really are. So
That
I
is
just
so
wanted to give
good.
that.
That is so good. See with your heart. Lead with your heart. Gosh, yes. So the last question that I want to ask you to talk a little bit about is we always are talking about, really you got to have a core foundation, and that will lead to being a powerhouse of possibilities.
Yeah.
And when you think about powerhouse of possibility, what what comes up for you?
Well, it's funny that you talk about foundation because I believe it's your rituals. So I want you to imagine a cup. Okay. If there was this cup, you wanted to pour things into the cup. You wanted wealth, you wanted health, you wanted friendship, you wanted love, you want all that. Those are contents. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is the context, which is the actual container that you are pouring your contents into. Okay. And so if you don't have a strong container, your container has leaks, everything that you pour into your container is going to leak out. And you're going to live a very exhausting life because you're going to keep trying to pour things into your container. I keep trying to get love and it leaks out. I keep trying to get money and it leaks out. I keep trying to put happiness in and it leaks out. You don't have a strong container. So you want to focus on your container. What are you doing that's going to hold all the things that you want in life? And this goes to your rituals. This goes back to your core values, the things that matter most to you, and protecting that, building that. And so I really just believe it's the things that you do every single day. Looking at your habits. You know, habits really dictate your life. I can look at your life and look at your habits, and I can tell what your life is like just by understanding what your habits are. I can understand if you're going to have love. I can understand if you're going to have money. I can understand if you're going to have the things that you want in life because your habits are going to dictate what you can hold. See, a lot of the stuff that we want in life, we don't have the structure to have those things. And so we try to
Absolutely.
pour
The
those
foundation.
in and
Yes.
they leak out. You want an empire
Exactly.
state building, you got to have the foundation to hold that up.
Mm, no doubt. That is so true. And when you start to look at those habits, good good and bad, right?
Yeah,
Those habits are what drive everything about your life. And you can, by just looking at what you do during the day, what you do in the morning, what you do at night, that will be a very good indication of, as you said, how much money you got in the bank, how much love you have around you, because it's all interrelated.
absolutely.
Very, very, very good. Well, hey, my friend, we have come to an end. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And I am so excited to hear the comments that are going to come from this episode. Very
Thank
nice.
you.
All right. Thanks
Thank you for
again.
having me, Hillary. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. And I love the work that you're doing. So keep
Oh,
it up.
thank you. You take care.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you felt a connection to this episode of the Silver Lined Relaunch, please head over to iTunes now. It would mean so much to me if you would leave a good review and help others find silver linings as well. And don't forget, you can have immediate access to all of the bonuses and notes from the show today in our treasure chest, which you have access to for free by texting 55444 and typing in treasure chest. Or you could go to our private Facebook group, The Relaunch Effect, Living a Life You Love. Together we've hit the reset button for you, turning your transitions into a transformation. Until next time, don't forget, there's always a silver lining.